what would you say are maybe the most common things, if we put that aside, the environment thing aside, what are some of the most common things you notice about teachers in any environment that are
Yeah.
good or bad or whatever?
Yeah. So over-engaged and under-engaged
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher. And with that, I would put that like a student, which you have to understand as a coach, as a teacher, as a parent, is that you can have all the information in the world, and that's only a small part of everything. What the most important part is that you have them buy in, and how you have them buy in is showing how much you actually care. Okay, so and it's not about so the problem with a lot of people that are like a coach, let's say, I don't care how much you know to a certain degree. I want to know that you give a shit about my team and me getting better.
Mm-hmm.
If you're coaching because you want to get to the next level, and that's how you're coaching and why you're coaching, and because you can't hide that for very long, right? Because you're motivated by you perform for me,
Mm-hmm.
then you lose them, right? So when you as a teacher, as a parent, as a coach, if you show that you actually care about them and their results, now you shift, because and there's a whole bunch of ways to show the kids that you care about them,
Mm-hmm.
like through a team or whatever. Individual, you can show that, so you can absolutely 100% get them engaged by knowing, okay, he actually cares about me, and would say, because that's a big missing link, right? Because it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle. If you're a school teacher, let's say, you got 20 kids in your class, lots are a pain in the ass. Some don't want to be there. Some are really good kids, but you might not even know there was really good kids. You're just trying to get through the day. So what are you really giving? So until you take the time to individually pick them out a little bit and show that I want you guys to be successful, like I want the best for you, you start getting a little bit more
Right.
buy-in.
Yeah,
And then
that's
what I
right.
was saying about being over engaged and under engaged is you can under engaged just simply means that the coach, when we're having a conversation, they've got their phone and they're going, yeah, yeah, work hard.
Yeah, it goes to your point about caring. Like you can tell
Yeah,
they don't really give too much of a rip.
yeah,
Or it seems like they don't.
yeah. It seems like you got a little bit more on your mind than me and my,
Right.
yeah, or
There's
just
one
do your
problem.
thing. Yeah. But then you get the over engaged,
Right.
where
Yeah.
it's like everything, like you said earlier, is like the most important thing in the world, and you're just so into it, and that becomes a problem as well. So you're over engaged. Like if we take that with raising a kid, or so this is for a parent, if every little mistake is harped on, or if they do something well and it's like, yeah, you got to keep doing that, like, did you do that again? It's like, it's just too much. So there's a medium in there that you have to be able uh, to go with.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with one of the dads too a little while back, and he was kind of asking me about my relationship with my dad and like what my dad did to kind of get me to how I am right now. Both my parents, but there's a specific relationship normally between dad, like son and father. And there's some dynamics at play there that aren't normally the same for mom and dad, obviously, or for mom and son. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but for me, with my dad, it was like it was that more on the over engaged side, where it was like everything is a life lesson. Like everything is, I need to have this deeper meaning, and everything is so serious, and everything is so detail oriented. Can't waste a minute. Can't, and there's a lot of positive that did come from that, but there's also a negative part of that where it's too much, right? And when I was a kid, I didn't know how to handle all of that, because how could I? I don't have the skills to know, like, I need to make a schedule. Like I have to stick to a schedule. It's like I'm 12.
I'm 12.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and this is, and my dad did, I'm not like ripping on my dad at all. Like he did a lot of great things to help me get to how I am and get my practice habits in order and all that kind of stuff. And that's probably a lot of the reason why I'm more on the OCD side of things, which I actually like because it's come in handy a lot. But when I'm a kid like that, it was exhausting, right? And that's what I see sometimes with teachers when they're lecturing the class, and you just see the class with like this body language of just like, here we go, here's another one. Oh, look, Sir's going on a tear again today, talking about our miss is gonna give us shit for the next 20 minutes now, and we're not gonna do anything. Where it's like they're not even slightly paying attention to the intended message. So that's where that the underengaged, overengaged. I would say that's probably the most common issue I find too. It's they're on one side or the other. It's either they're not enough into it, or there's not enough care, or they're in it for the wrong reasons. Like as a teacher too, I keep going to the teacher thing just because it's more relatable for a lot of parents probably is this is my job. Like you're thinking about it like this is my job where I come to make my money and then go home at the end of the workday. Whereas a teacher, it's supposed to be about the kids, right? You're supposed to be teaching the kids. So that can be a problem. And then with the parents too, it's the same thing. You go to the flip side where it's like you're so about your kids being the best and the most important and special and the best at everything. It's like you're way too much, man.
Can't let them make a
Yeah,
mistake.
can't.
They make
Yeah,
a mistake, it's the end of the world, but
right.
it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I agree. That's the exact same thing that I see. You have to have like some kind of a balance.
Yeah.
To that, right?
Yeah. So within that overengaged, underengaged, I would say like if underengaged would be you come to school lethargic or uninterested, or you're here, or you go to your practices and your games and like I'm here. What's the plan, coach? And it's like you're scrambling because you're just there, right? And kids are talking to you. You've never thought of like, hey, I need to talk to Eric today because you had a couple good games. I want to keep him going. Eric, come here for a second. And it doesn't have to take much, but it's like you're doing this well. Keep it up. Smack him in the arse. A couple kids, and then you talk about your game plan and stuff like that. Like, and actually, as I'm speaking, you can see that I've got some enthusiasm. That's what teaching. That's how you bring out the best of people. Like sometimes it's a little bit too much and too hard and too fast, but that there's something there. Like, okay, I should be about excited about something.
Right.
I should be motivated about
Exactly.
something because this freaking mental case is right. You can see it.
That's
You
right.
can feel it. That's that presence that comes out.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what you should, if you want to have people around you that are going to respond to your message. There should be some sort of energy that goes with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And one thing I would point out about it too is, and maybe it's because I'm still close in age with the kids that we're training and stuff, so I get where their head is at. There's a time where you want to be optimally engaged all the time as a teacher, meaning sometimes you should be more underengaged and more overengaged. So a simple example for me is when I'm talking to the kids through the workout about their warm up, right? Kids don't give a shit about warm up. I remember I didn't care about warm up. I don't care about mobility. I don't care about any of that. So if I really overengage on the mobility, they don't care, man.
They're going through the motions.
They're going through the motions. So instead,
it is what it is for that age.
Yeah. So instead, I get on their level about it, and I say, hey, like it's really easy to not care about this stuff, and I get that because it's like seems like it's not doing much, but it's actually important. So just do your best to be engaged when you're doing these movements. I know it's a pain in the ass, but it actually will help you if you do it. And I leave it at that, and that's all. It's not like halfway through the mobility, I'm like, you guys are goofing around and nobody's taking it serious and blah, 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 way on the overengaged side. And now they're just like, okay, buddy, relax, So it's all, you have to be able to read that, where to plug the overengagement and where to not. And a lot of times too, like you see, especially with teachers, they'll get mad about small details that don't matter just for the sake of commanding order,
yeah.
Right? In the classroom or whatever. And you have to be able to let some of that stuff slide so that the kids feel like I'm not just always getting in shit about stuff, right? So there's a balance between the overengaged, underengaged thing where you have to be able to do both. It's not like there's one right in the middle solution where you're always not fully overengaged, not fully underengaged. That's not it. It's like a sliding scale. Sometimes you're more towards the overengaged, sometimes you're more towards the underengaged, depending on the circumstance, the audience, what they care about, so that you can level with them, right? And if you want to get results, especially if it's something they don't care about, which in school and with certain types of training styles, a lot of kids don't care about any of that, right? So if you want to get the buy-in, then you have to get on their level about it, and you have to be able to relate in a way that they'll respond to, not just be the dictator of the room kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and the thing, like when you talk about your the mobility and stuff, I agree 100%. I didn't really give a shit about it until I was 50.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like really, I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd never tell me that that's an important part of life, and I'm a pretty mature guy. Well, not an immature person. I'm old. So it took me a long time to realize, oh, this is why it's important because it's my body moves better. So you're not saying just ignore it. What you do is like addressing the D zone with a goal scorer, right? When you talk to a goal scorer or someone that wants to put up points, and especially when they're younger, about how important the D zone is, they're like, the answer is yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they go and do their same thing over and over. They don't hear the message. When you're talking about the warm ups in your fitness in the fitness groups and the mobility, they don't want to really hear that message. But what you can do is to make sure you address it and you make it important is you tell them the reasons why. So, you know, the best that I can do with a goal scorer, especially let's say a 14-year-old offensive player, is I could explain to the team why D zone is so important. And this is how if you, it doesn't matter unless you're Connor McDavid, but even he had to tighten that up. This is what will get you to the higher levels. And then individually taking that player and saying, okay, I know you like to score goals, blah blah blah, and you give them your best swing at D zone and explaining how attractive that is to a scout and stuff and to your future. And if they don't get it, you know, you throw it out, throw them a bone every now and then to remind them. And then you maybe reward other guys. Say, look at the D zone there, and if they hear the D zone is important, they might buy, but they're probably still not going to. But at least you did your job to teach it. And it's the same with the warm ups, right? All you can do is you say like, here's the importance of it. This will help you move better. This is how you're going to lift better. Blah 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 blah. And then it's going to go in one ear and out the other for the most part. But you did your job.
Yeah,
And you did it well.
and to your point about you have to show you care about the person. Like this is why that relationship thing is so important, because without doing that, you're not going to be able to relate to something they value. And that's what's important about when you're teaching somebody is you have to be able to say the reason you want to do this thing that you don't want to do, the reason you should do this thing you don't want to do is because it will lead you to this result on this thing that you said you care about. Perfect example for me is the kid with their eating. None of these kids eat, man. Like, I don't know if I just got the Italian gene and was lucky when I was a teenager because I just pounded food from the time I was 12 until today. But some of these kids don't eat, dude. They won't eat. So they say, yeah, I'll try to do this meal plan, but I don't like this, but I don't like this. If I say to them, well, yeah, but you need to eat so you get stronger. It's like, that's not enough of a reason for them, right? So it's like for this kid, I'm thinking of one kid in particular. I'm like, dude, like you talk about how you want to get faster all the time or how you feel tired in your games. It's like, you want to have a better game? It's like, you want to feel better in your game? You have to eat, dude. Like, you don't have a choice. So if you want to be a better performer in your game, you need to eat more so that you're fueled properly. Now that relates to that kid. That kid cares about playing well, right? He doesn't necessarily care about I need to get stronger, but he knows that playing well in my game, that's important to me. So if you do this, this will help you perform better in your game. You know, it's not just, well, if you don't do this, you're not eating properly. It's like, that's not a good enough answer, right?
That's an adult way of.
Yeah, right. So they don't know how to make that connection. So as the teacher, you're making that connection for them, which you can only do if you take a individual interest in that person, because otherwise you can't relate to what they're valuing as an individual, you know? And so that's a perfect example that I find with those kids with their eating. It's like, you want to get stronger? Like you said, you want to put on weight so that you're not getting knocked around on the ice as much. It's like, here, I'm telling you, this is how you can do it. And without fail, these kids they're not perfect. They don't do it exactly how the prescription is given, but they make improvements. There's progress there, you know? And that's where you start to see the kids are learning, and that development curve, they're starting to follow it now, where they're developing, because I've given them something that shows them you'll get towards this goal that you say you have if you do this thing that you don't care about right now, you know? So you have to be able to relate on that level too. That's why that's a huge point to care about that person, make them feel like you care about their development as an individual, you know?